Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Winfrey, and I am one of the counselors here at Dominion. First, we want to thank all of you for coming tonight, and forgive us for the change of location last minute. There's a lot of stuff happening in the building tonight. You didn't notice as you came in, so we had to adjust. We thank you all for your patience and understanding as we send out updates throughout the day today. So we are going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. Along with myself, we have Ms. Lisa Sharp and Jessica Benson. And we're going to rotate the presentation so you'll hear from all of us at different parts during it. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about specifically the four-year college plan. We know that not every student is going to end up going to a four-year college after graduation, but the process to apply to a four-year is much more complicated, so we focus on that one first. And then as your student or students who are present in the room with us today decide what you're going to do, your counselor will work with you to make a plan for all the other options available. So we'll talk about registration, because that's going to start soon to pick your senior year classes. And then preparing for those options using Naviance, which is the tool that we use for college preparation. And then some of the things we want you guys to do in the spring and the summer to prepare for senior year. So this is our counseling team. I know the slide is really hard to see, and I apologize for that. But in addition to myself, Ms. Benson, and Ms. Sharp, we have Mr. Edwards, who's our director, Ms. Doubts, who works with students in the beginning of the alphabet, Mrs. Patel, and Mrs. Welch. If your student doesn't know who their counselor is yet, they will meet that person at the end of February when we begin selection for senior year. Your counselor is going to be extremely important during this time during junior year, going through the entirety of senior year. So it's somebody you want to remain in contact with in case you have any questions or need help with anything at all. If I'm going too fast, please let me know. Okay, thanks. In addition to the counselors, the rest of our staff includes our social worker, our school psych, our parent liaison, our student assistant specialist, registrar, and secretary. Some of you may know that Mr. Navidad, our career center assistant, recently took a new job. So he no longer works here at Dominion, but we're currently hiring a new person. So hopefully very soon, we will have a new career center assistant who helps with a lot of stuff for college and career exploration for students. So important registration dates. So like I said, we're going to begin meeting with juniors at the end of February through the beginning of March. We're going to pull 11th graders during their Titan time. So we will come to them and grab them to meet with them briefly to talk about classes for next year. Yes? Yes. So we will post this entire presentation on both the Schoology page which your students have access to, and we will send an email out to all of you and your students within the next week or so with all this information. Yes. No problem. And we'll also send weekly updates, which you may have gotten a couple of those already, with information you need to know as we move forward in the process. Yes? We will communicate directly with them to find a time that works best. So we have a list of all of our kids who do not have a Titan time, and so as their counselor, we will find the time to meet with them to pick their classes. On April 1st, we're going to send a message to all of you about the classes your student has picked. You then will have time to meet with their counselor if you want to discuss the classes they've chosen, concerns about that, wherever your thoughts are. May 5th is the deadline for all paperwork. So as this rising senior, there's a lot of really cool opportunities your student will have. So things like early release, taking dual enrollment classes, class helper, all of those require paperwork to be turned in, and that deadline is May 5th. On June 1st, we will send another email to families about classes. And then June 15th, the last day of school, is the last day to change your classes for next year. I'll read that one more time. June 15th, the last day of school, is the last day to change your classes for senior year. So Ms. Sharp is going to talk a little bit about building an attractive college and career profile.
Thank you, Ms. Winfrey. Okay, so the nuts and bolts of this presentation, and why you're all here, the college and career profile. So first, some options, right? Right now, all the juniors in here, you've been in school, kindergarten, pre-K, all the way to 11th grade, and you've pretty much been told the hours, the time, you're going to school. But now, after high school, you have a lot more options. Like Ms. Winfrey already stated, today we're focusing on college and that pathway, but there are other options. So military, and we do speak with students about military options. Military do come and visit and do talk with students here on campus. A gap year, okay, so this is taking a year away from college, so deferring a college plan. But students, this does not mean sitting in your mom and dad's basement playing video games. Okay? It means finding yourself, volunteering, doing something to work your way into starting college the following year. The other option is a 2-year college, okay, community college, and the closest one to us, Nova, just up the street, okay, where you can earn a trade school certificates or associate degree. And then, of course, what we're heavily going to touch on today is the 4-year college plan. I know this is very tiny, but the spreadsheet shows the factors that the National Association of College Admissions Counselors has deemed to be most important in the college admissions process. And up there, I know you probably can't see it, but on the very top, grades in all courses. Okay, that is considered the most important aspect of what colleges look at when they are determining admissions. The next would be grades in college prep courses. So your core classes, your English, math, science, as your core classes there. It's important to remember, though, that every school is unique and has their own way in which they evaluate applicants. So this should be used as a resource. Okay? Grades, again, are heavily considered. Okay, so strength of our curriculum. Again, we're going to meet with all of you juniors February into March. So as seen on the previous slide, the NACAC slide, colleges consider grades in all courses and the strengths of curriculum, but again, to be the most important factors in decision-making for admissions. We recommend that you view the classes you have selected for next year to ensure that they're aligned with your interests. So if you're interested in science, taking an advanced level science course so that you are able to excel in that course is the best option for you. Okay. And again, a balanced class load so that you're not only taking rigorous courses, but your mental health is adequate as well, okay, and getting you through the classes. Okay, so we help, as your school counselor, there are some students that are like, I want to take 6 APs. We have a heavy conversation about that. Okay. So what do admission reps say about the strength of curriculum? We can see right here on this quote, students are always advised to take the strongest curriculum they can reasonably handle. Again, focusing on support and not just getting good grades, but all around, while pursuing academic and extracurricular opportunities for which they have a passion. Okay, so taking the advanced courses, honors, AP, dual enrollment, and really focusing on the classes that you do well in, that you enjoy. So, next here, the SAT and ACT. So we do encourage students to take these standardized tests. Due to the recent changes, a lot of colleges have changed their admissions using SAT and ACT because of the pandemic. We encourage students, we still encourage you to take SAT and ACT at least once during your junior year. So this is especially important if you plan on applying to either early decision or early action deadlines, as they move quickly once you return to school in the fall. So if you don't know what early action and early decision deadlines are, we'll talk more about those when we're talking about college and planning, even come this February. But you're applying early to the schools before regular admissions roll out. And then there, in early decision, there is a binding factor. So you're saying, I am definitely going to this school if I am accepted. You can register for the SAT at sat.org and the ACT at actstudent.org. The next ACT will be on April 2nd. April 2nd is the next ACT, and the deadline is February 25th, so a month from now. The next SAT is March 12th, with a registration deadline of February 11th. And they are offered here at Dominion, so you would take that. But you do have to register for the SAT and ACT through the College Board or ACT website. Students who receive free and reduced lunch are eligible for waivers. So just since currently we don't have a career specialist, you can reach out to their school counselor and see if you qualify for a fee waiver. Okay. And a lot of schools, like I said at the beginning, are becoming test optional. So because of this, it's good to research, and we're going to show you the Naviance tool in just a bit. And so creating your college list, finding those colleges that you're really interested in, and really diving deep to see if they are requiring SAT or ACT test scores. Okay. All right, so Ms. Benson's going to move in and talk about using Naviance.
This is going to be interesting for me because I talk with my hands a lot. I'm Italian, so I have to hold a microphone, talk, and do all these things at the same time. So we're going to see how this goes. So we're going to talk about Naviance, and Naviance is a really amazing tool that is going to help guide you and your students through the college application process. But before you even get to the application process, what Naviance allows you to do is start your research. So how do you research tools? Parents also have access to Naviance accounts as well. And what we can help you to do is to get access to that if you do not have a Naviance account set up for yourself. Your students all have Naviance accounts already set up. They access them through their LCPS Go accounts. Actually, this past week and the week before, we were in Titan Times with our juniors, and we got them logged into their Naviance accounts, and we had them work through some of the tools that we're going to share with you today. So the purpose of Naviance, again, is to help with the college and career planning process. Also, it allows you to request transcripts and letters of recommendation. It will assist you with scholarship opportunities. But again, in its biggest feature, it has that college search and comparison options and features. It also allows you to use a tool called Supermatch and Scattergrams. Our students in years prior to junior year have done some activities in career exploration, which allows them to find career clusters of areas that they might be interested or have passions of. Also, during COVID times, we were doing a lot of virtual college visits. Now our college representatives are able to come back to our campus and visit in person, which is really great. And all of the reminders for those visits come through Naviance. So if students want to come and see a college visit for, George Mason, then they can sign up through their Naviance accounts. Also, again, like we said, it's all resume builders and electronic tracking for documents for when we start sending documents to different universities or institutions. So that's really a great feature there. So a very brief orientation for Naviance is, again, our students have access to this. This is something that they're given access to. It's through their LCPS Go accounts. We can offer also a parent account as well. Please notify your counselor if you have questions about that. We can help get that set up. But there's, again, lots of different tools there for you. And also, students are able to see in the About Me section, this is a question that comes up a lot as students start asking questions or researching colleges, where can I find my GPA or where can I find my class rank? And that is all in the Naviance account under the About Me section. So there is lots of tools in here and lots of resources. And we will guide students through Naviance as well as we get further and further into the process. So right now we're just at that research stage, making our college list, finding what we're interested in. And this is all at the beginning stages as well. So one of the tools that Naviance has is the College Snapshot. And so this gives you the overview about a specific institution. So it can share with you, acceptance rates, graduation rates, what the average net price is, and it'll tell you what their deadlines are, which is always important as you're starting to gather different information is, hey, when are these deadlines? When do I need to be prepared? So that is a great overview. Also, what's great is you can see in this picture next to the University of Virginia, there's a heart. That little heart means that you favorited this college and that you're interested in attending. So anytime students find a school that they're potentially interested in, they have the feature to always click that favorite button and it automatically moves that college over to a list for them. And it saves it in Naviance. So you can build that list as you go through your search, okay? And your list may change. You may start this process and say, I really want to attend a large institution. Then you go and you visit Penn State and you're like, that was way too big. And then you start looking at smaller, more medium-sized schools. And so your list will change and develop as you go through the research process. And this is what Naviance is able to do. There's an admissions tab as well, and that will talk a little bit more, about the application fees and policies, what's required. It'll tell you a little bit about the school's acceptance rate. And so again, it will also show you how many students from Dominion were applied and accepted to that institution. So that's also an interesting feature as well. One of the tools we will share with our students is the Scattergram Tool. And the Scattergram Tool can be found in through Naviance and in through the colleges I'm thinking about list. And this will show you, there's one arrow and it points, it's a blue little person icon, and that's going to be you as the student. And that is going to use your GPA, and your SATs or ACT scores. If you have not taken that, it will use your PSAT score. And it will show you all of the students who have applied from Dominion. And there's a key at the bottom, and it will say that the red X's are students who are denied, or there's an X in a box that means waitlisted, and then there's green checks, and then that will mean that they were accepted. Please keep in mind that there is always outliers throughout the college admissions process. So I don't want this to be a deterrent for you if you really have your eyes set on a school for a particular reason or for a particular major. It is important to know that there are outliers. Speak to your counselor, talk about how we can, really help your application and make it the strongest it can be, because this isn't the only thing that will determine if you should apply to a school. Again, it's a tool, but it's not a determining factor. So Supermatch tool, I should ask one of our students to share how they use this tool, because they all got lessons about how to use the Supermatch tool last week in their Titan times. If your student attends the academies or was ill, or the snow days got them all confused like it did the rest of us, we are having a makeup session after school on February 3rd, starting at 4:05. Otherwise, we will also share with our students electronically through their Schoology pages what that lesson was all about. But Supermatch tool also can be found again with the colleges I'm thinking about. And what it will allow you to do is say what's really important on your college search. So in your search, do you want an HBCU? Do you want a large school, a small school? Do you want a school with Greek life? Do you want Division I athletics? It will allow you to tell it what your most important criteria is to attend that school. And then it provides you with that criteria, and it makes a list for you. So say you want only schools on the West Coast, or you only want schools on the East Coast. It will put all of that for you, and it'll give you a fit score. And again, it's just a really great tool as you start your search. And your students should be experts on it because we witnessed all of them doing this in the last couple of weeks. So again, great opportunity to start researching your various interests, your various passions, and just areas where you want to attend school. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Winfrey.
So before I continue, I know this is a lot of information, and we're going kind of quickly through it, right? So just as a reminder, we are going to post this in various locations, this exact presentation, plus our notes will be accessible to all of you. We'll also be talking about all of these parts again in more detail throughout the rest of this school year and next year. So I understand it's a lot, it can feel really overwhelming, but we are here to help you and your student go through this entire process, okay? So finding the right college, finding that good fit is an individual process for each student because there are different things that matter to each of you. Some students want to be at a massive school where they're one in like 20,000 people. Other kids want to be at a really tiny school where everyone on campus knows their name and their entire life story. There are a bunch of tools like the ones that Ms. Benson mentioned to help you figure out what school is right for you. But in addition to those, it's really important to figure out, like, do you want to live on campus? Is that important to you? You want to be close enough to be able to go back home for breaks? Or do you want to be so far away that you have to pay a lot of money to get back home? Do you want to be at somewhere that's full of greenery, or do you want to be in the middle of a city? All those things are things that I want your students to start thinking about now, because it'll help us figure out what schools are right for you. There's also a website called unigo.com, and it's a great tool to learn about colleges from the students who attend those schools. So to get like the inside view from the students who are currently on the campus. Additionally, we encourage students to both visit schools in person, but also virtually. Because of the pandemic, a lot of colleges have placed virtual tours on their websites, and NACAC, the National Association for College Admissions Counselor, hosts a fair every single year, and they're regional. So they have like a Northeast one, a Northwest one, for you to learn about the schools in that area. This information about these fairs are listed in the class of 2023 post-secondary planning guide, which I've included in the past 2 weekly updates I've sent out. That information will be accessible on the school counseling website, through the emails we send, and the Schoology page. So all the links we will mention in this presentation at any point between now and the end of senior year, we will give to all of you too, okay? So let's talk about how do we build a good list of schools? How many should we have? So like Ms. Benson mentioned, if you favorite or heart a school in Naviance, it will add it automatically to your colleges I'm thinking about list. We encourage students to have 1 to 2 safety or scholarship schools, meaning a school that accepts students whose GPA is lower than your current GPA and SAT score. We then encourage you to have at least 2 target schools, so schools that accept students that look very similar to you, and then a couple of reach schools, schools where you don't exactly hit the mark of the average student who's admitted, but you could get in there potentially, or it's like your dream school, you've always dreamed of going to this school. Yeah, that's your reach, that's fine. We'd like this list to be developed by all of our juniors by the end of this school year. Like I said, colleges I'm thinking about will automatically populate that list for you. And if you click the I next to the school, it will tell you the delivery type, which I'll go into a little bit more detail later about the different platforms that schools accept applications through. So, college application types. So you may have heard some of these phrases already: Common App, Coalition. There are different ways to submit your applications to colleges. Most schools will focus on the Common App or the Coalition, or an electronic platform to submit stuff to colleges. Some schools will still take mailed-in applications, but there are very few of them. For the most part, you're doing stuff on your computer. When you look in Naviance, there will be a symbol next to each school that will tell you what their application type is. So if you see a CA in a box, that means Common App. If you see like a little postage stamp, that means it's a male-only school. And if you click on the symbol, because you don't know what it means, it will tell you what the symbol means. So everything in Naviance is pretty user-friendly. If you're confused, there's usually like a little I for info that you can click on to learn more about that particular aspect. So Common App and Coalition. Common App is used by nearly 700 colleges and universities around the world. It is the most common platform for applications to colleges. Coalition is a secondary platform, and the beauty of these platforms is that you do all of your work in one place. So instead of doing 15 different applications, you add the schools you want to apply to into Common App, and you enter all your demographic information, you start your Common App essays. They'll even tell you what supplemental, so additional essays a college may be asking for. If you're a student who's going into the arts field, they may say, okay, you need to record a video of a performance or upload 12 different drawings that you've done into a portfolio. But it all will be housed in that one location of Common App. There are some schools who will take either one. Some will only take one platform, and some will take neither. So that's part of that college research part, is figuring out what platform can I apply to this school with, and what's the most convenient thing to do. We want you to work smarter, not harder. If you're applying to 15 schools that all have different application platforms, that's a lot more work on your part. When you can, narrow it down to at least one or two places, so you're working in one or two spots. College deadlines. So these are the traditional types of deadlines that colleges have. I believe Ms. Sharp mentioned them a little bit earlier, but I'll go through them now so we have a clear understanding of what each type means, because each college will have a different deadline associated with it. So early action is generally November 1st or 15th, and it's non-binding, meaning you're applying early to find out early, but you don't have to commit to that school. You can go somewhere else if you want to. There are a few colleges who, in the South particularly, who have an October 15th deadline. So like University of South Carolina, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, I believe Duke has one that early too. So that's why we talked about those SAT scores, right? Taking that during your junior year, because once senior year starts, you are going very quickly. So if you're trying to apply to an October 15th deadline, a lot of stuff has to happen before you get back in our building for senior year, so you're ready for that, okay? Early decision, typically November 1st, 15th-ish, is binding. If you get into William & Mary and you applied early decision, you are going to William & Mary. The only way out of that, because you sign an actual contract, is that if there is a financial difficulty and you are unable to pay to attend the school, then you can get that rescinded. Otherwise, you got in, you're going. Parents sign it, student signs it, counselor signs it. So everyone's aware of what early decision means. Okay? Regular decision, most common, ranges from November through February, sometimes even March. It's just the typical deadline the college has for applicants to submit their application. You would find out typically 2 to 3 months after you submit it. So if you apply to a school in February, you wouldn't find out till maybe May, sometimes the middle of May. And so sometimes for some students who are ready, finding out sooner is a nice relief, because you're done with college stuff, you're good to go, you finished it, you found out in December, it's all over. But sometimes you're not ready yet, and that's totally fine. We want students to apply to deadlines that are right for them. There's no pressure to apply early or apply late. It's whatever you're ready to do at that time. There's 2 more types of deadlines. So rolling means you can apply whenever within a certain window, and you'll find out within 1 to 2 weeks typically. So I know University of West Virginia has a rolling application. And so I have students who applied and found out a week later that they got in, which is nice, because you just send your stuff off when you're ready, you get an answer back pretty quickly. And finally, we have priority filing dates. So some colleges will set specific deadlines for students who want to be considered for certain scholarships or for financial aid. So for example, George Mason, their early action deadline is November 1st. That is also their scholarship deadline. So if you want money from Mason, you have to apply by November 1st. Okay? So now we're going to talk a little bit about what we do next. So what we think is best for your students to start working on as we go into senior year, and then what we are going to provide your students as they go into their senior year as well.
All right, I'm going to take a poll. How many of you like to or currently make a to-do list? Okay, if you are not raising your hand, or were not raising your hand, look at everyone around you who is or was raising your hand and ask them what that means, because it's so important, or ask them how they do it. Okay, making a to-do list is so essential when applying to colleges. As you can see, there is a lot to the college process, which we are here to help, okay? But just so you are organized, what is the first thing you want to do? Well, visit colleges. You've made this college list. You have reached schools. You have schools that you would love to go to, but have you visited the campus? Have you stood there in the middle of a quad and said, this is where I want to be the next 4 years and live here? Okay, so we know that not everyone has the opportunity to go visit a campus, especially if it's out of state. There are lots of virtual tours that students can join, especially with the pandemic. Colleges made that really accessible to students and families. Okay, so getting started on the college application process, again, it's all about organization. I have students who seniors at the beginning of this year, they came in with a list with highlighted pens and different colors, and they tell me this is my reach schools, and these are my out of state, and these are the schools that are going to apply to scholarships. They had that list already set, and I'm like, yes, let's go. And we can do a lot with that. So really getting organized, whatever best way fits you, using the Naviance tool, writing it down, whatever works. Creating your application platform accounts. Again, Ms. Winfrey mentioned the Common App and Coalition. It really, again, this is all about researching your school, the schools you want to apply to, and looking at what platforms they actually utilize for the Common App, or sorry, for admissions. Big thing, a lot of our students ask, what email do I use? Your personal email account, students, your personal one, because right when you graduate, your school email closes. Okay, and please make it an appropriate email address that you want the colleges to see. Okay, so if you do not have that, go home tonight or tomorrow and make an appropriate email address. Okay, and again, if you have, we have been sending a lot of email correspondence about this this presentation tonight, because lots of changes were occurring. If you did not see any of those emails, you need to start now checking your emails. That's how every college is going to notify you. And that's how they're going to say, oh, you're missing your transcript, or you're missing a letter, or you're missing this or that. They're only going to contact you through email. So please make it a habit now to start checking your email on a regular basis. So come senior year, you already have that down. All right, next is our deadlines. Again, colleges aren't like your teachers. They're not going to say, oh, it's okay, you missed that, I'll extend it a week. No, they won't. There are thousands of students applying to these colleges. So please, again, checking the email, keeping up on deadlines. Essays, which I'll talk about next and how to get started there. And then also letters of recommendations. So hopefully you start thinking about teachers who not only you're doing well in their class, but also maybe the teacher who really knows you, who has seen you struggle in the class and can write a great letter of recommendation for you, because you will be sending letters from teachers, and from us, your school counselor sends a letter as well. So if you do not know your school counselor, it's a great idea to go introduce yourself tomorrow and say, my name is, and start talking, okay? Because we do write a letter for you, and we want them to be strong letters. Okay, so the college essay. You can start writing your essay. Now, the Common App and Coalition do have the essay questions out for you to start. And there's a variety of questions to choose from, and you select one to write about. Colleges, and it really depends on the college that you are applying to, they have supplemental questions. So some colleges just have you write one essay from the Common App, for example, and then other colleges have you submit the Common App essay and 3 or 4 supplemental questions. So again, really, and those take time to write. So really, again, the research is really important and what your colleges are asking for you to do and prepare for. Okay, so what do they want to know? They want to know attitudes, values, opinions, your personal story and background, any challenges you came, goals and aspirations. This is what you're writing in your college essays. So you can go to Common App and look at the essay prompts that are up there and start writing one if you'd like to start. The essays are all about you and your unique voice. So yes, you have to write an essay about yourself. Okay, and that's what they're asking you to do. So starting that, it might take a while. Okay, maybe you don't like talking about yourself, but now is the important time to do so. Okay. Also, is really important is making sure someone reads your essay before you submit it. Okay, we have the Writing Center here on campus if you've never utilized that. And of course, your English teacher is a great resource also to go and ask to review your essay, especially for grammar. Okay, and then the last portion to build your college application is activities and community service. So back in the day, parents, you remember, because I remember as well, I always heard the term well-rounded student. Well, that's not so much the case anymore. Okay, the case now is colleges are looking for pointy students. What does that mean? Well, yes, they want students who have good grades, but they also want students who participate in activities. So whether it be a community service, part of your church, playing a sport, a club here on campus, they want to see you leaders in any of those activities. So they want to see that you played soccer for 3 or 4 years and you became the captain of the soccer team, or you were president of one of the clubs here on campus and you were in that club for 3 or 4 years. They want you to be dedicated to 1 or 2 areas on your campus in your community. Okay, so they are looking for pointy students, no longer the well-rounded so much. Okay, because during your college essay, you may have to write about that. They're going to ask you, why did you participate in this activity? And if you're just a participant, you don't have much to write about. Okay, but you're actually leader, they can see that passion in the area you chose. All right, Ms. Benson's going to come back up and she's going to touch upon teacher letters of recommendation.
Anybody has lost an earring? I found one on the floor while I was walking, so check your ears. It's up at the front. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and talk a little bit about teachers' recommendations. And so a lot of you know that this is a big part in the college admissions process is, when do I ask my teachers about writing me letters of recommendation? How many teachers do I ask? So we're gonna answer those questions today. So we really always request that if you are going to ask a teacher for a letter of recommendation, that you go to them personally and ask for that letter. If for some reason you can't do that, email works fine too, but I would really like for you to make that personal connection and thank that teacher for doing that for you, because it's going to take some time. They're going to write you the best letter possible, and it's time consuming. So if you could go ahead and ask them in person, that is a great way to start. You may want to also start asking them, thinking about which teachers you want to ask. We're going to ask that you have about a minimum of 2 teachers in mind that you're going to ask for that letter of recommendation from. And with that, we recommend that they be from sophomore or junior year. You're going to want teachers that can speak to not only your academic success in their classes, but say chemistry was really hard for you, and then all of a sudden you worked with that teacher, you stayed after school every single day, and even though you kept struggling, finally you were able to pass your first couple of tests. That means that you really stuck it out and your teacher sees that work. So don't be afraid that it's not the class you've earned the best grade in, but it also could be a class that you've also had the biggest struggle with, that you've overcome those challenges. So they could be from those types of teachers as well. It also could be from a subject area that you enjoy, or maybe that you potentially want to major in. That's not necessarily required. Always check the admissions requirements though. We have started to see an increase in colleges that will ask for letters of recommendation from a math teacher, from a science teacher, depending upon the major that those students are applying to. So again, really researching the requirements of each school is so important. And again, I've kind of talked about classes you've made significant strides in. All of those things are important. And when you ask your teacher, one of the things that we will ask students to do is, if you have a resume created or you have a list of activities that you'd like to share with them, please go ahead and do that, because it's, again, very helpful in the letter writing process. Also, what we'll have you do is, there's a Naviance process that students will complete to upload their letter of recommendation request. So we will walk students through that. Last year, we held our first ever college boot camp in the summer before classes started, and we are going to do so again this upcoming August. So it'll be prior to school, where we go through, we call it College Bootcamp because it teaches them everything that they need to know in just a day, about how to request letters of recommendation, how to request your transcripts. So it will basically help our students to get through the college application process smoothly. And it worked really well. So we had a great time, we had a great turnout, and we'll get the date to you as soon as we have it. So that everybody can be prepared. We are doing some renovations next year at Dominion, so we're gonna have to work around some of the construction that might still be happening. But we're definitely gonna have it, and we'll teach our students how to do all of these next steps. So the counselor letter of recommendation, this also plays a really big role in the application process. And as school counselors, we are happy to write your letters of recommendation for you. You do not need to come and ask us individually. We are happy to do so. What we do ask of you, though, is that you provide us with a student insight sheet, and a parent or guardian insight sheet is an optional task. But the student insight sheet is what you basically call a brag sheet. So this tells us things that your transcript won't tell a college or university. I had a student last year, I never knew he was an Eagle Scout or a Boy Scout going for his Eagle Scout award. I didn't know that until I had his brag sheet with me, or his insight sheet. And that made a really big difference in the letter that I could write for him, because we never had a conversation about it. So those are the kinds of things, your strengths, your weaknesses, things that you've had to overcome in your world. All of that is really helpful. There's an electronic document. You can share it with your school counselor. It's a Google Doc. You just share it with us. We have plenty, we can print copies as well. But it's really good to start looking at it. It's in the college handbook, which we'll talk about. And then it also will be on your Schoology pages as well. So this is a task that you can get started on in the spring, or even, in the summer. I would definitely, try to get this stuff rolling so that you can just submit it to us right when you get back from break. We had some seniors last year that started submitting it to us before they even left for the summer. So it's definitely highly recommended to start getting some of this stuff done. Same with your letters of recommendation. If you know your teacher that you want to write your letter already, please go ahead and ask them for that, okay? The earlier we start, the more organized we are. But absolutely, we're happy to write your letters of recommendation for you. You don't have to ask us individually. Transcript, GPA, and class rank. So there's always a lot of questions about this as we enter through the process, and students will ask us for copies of their transcripts. So just keep in mind that a transcript will list every single course that you've ever taken, okay? And it will also list your most current GPA. It is a cumulative weighted GPA. We are out of a 4.0 scale, and that can be confusing for some of our students and families because it'll say, oh, is this out of a 5-point scale? But with our weighted GPAs and AP bumps and DE bumps and things like that, you may have a GPA that's a 4.1, a 4.2. That is still always out of a 4.0 GPA. Students can find unofficial transcripts on their own. They are also in their student view accounts under documents. There's also a section in Naviance that will allow you to see that information as well. Always keep in mind that by the time our students are applying to colleges and universities, the only grades that that school is going to see is everything up until their final GPA from cumulative GPA from junior year. So colleges evaluate students based on everything up until junior year. We do not send report cards off to colleges unless requested. It is very rare. I have not seen that. I did not do that as an admissions counselor myself when I was working on the higher ed side before this. So it's very rare for that. What colleges will ask for is a mid-year grade or mid-year reports. And mid-year reports are when we have our semester grades. So right now, we're coming up to the end of semester 1. Grades will be final by February 5th or 6th. And we will send those off mid-year grades off to schools, okay? So just keep that in mind. It's always a little confusing as to what colleges see, but they make their evaluation based off of your final cumulative GPA from junior year. Your GPAs are only ever updated over the summer. So once your grades are final for the summer, or then again after first semester, okay? And then we'll go through the process of requesting transcripts. Also keep in mind, we don't update class rank until after the first couple of weeks of a student's senior year. And the reason being for that is because our classes fluctuate in terms of enrollment. We have students entering, we have students withdrawing, class size changes, and it's a whole process to run class rank. So we try to keep it as accurate as possible once the new enrollments slow down. And we'll go over the process for requesting your transcripts at College Bootcamp again in August. There is a small process for it, but again, we just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, because again, we're sending your information to these colleges and institutions, and so we have to have your permission to be able to do that, and that's why we have a transcript request process. We talked a little, Ms. Winfrey had mentioned that we do have a college and career center here at Dominion. And currently right now, again, the position is vacant, but your school counselors will jump in and assist you at any point if you need help with anything. And we are hiring very fast, so we will be able to have somebody assisting you all for your senior year. And what the College and Career Specialist helps us to do, they support our students throughout the post-secondary process. They'll also send out weekly emails regarding scholarships, as well as any current jobs, or when we have those college recruiter visits or military visits. Today we had one of the organizations that recruits for lifeguards over the summer. So all of those opportunities we do provide for our students are typically done through our College and Career Specialist. So as soon as we have updates as to who fills that position, we will most certainly let our community know that moving forward. But if there's anything that you need in the interim, your school counselors can help with that. So I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Winfrey again.
Okay, we're in the home stretch.
We
have like
promised.
5 slides left,
We
and then we're done.
promised.
So we're there, we're almost there. So junior year tasks. So these are things we want your student to do during this year in the summer. So request or think about who you want to write your 2 teacher letters of recommendation. And then submit your student insight sheet to your counselor. The earlier we get that sheet, the earlier we can write your recommendation letter. So if you give it to me now, and I have time now, I can write your letter now. If you give it to me before your application is due, I'll be writing a very rushed letter on your behalf, which won't be as good as if I get like 2 months to write it. Just keep that in mind. By the end of the summer, so before senior year begins, We encourage all students to have created and narrowed down their college list. What are the schools you really want to apply to? Obviously, you can always add more schools, take schools off as you're going through the process, but walking into senior year with some sort of idea of where you're applying makes it a little bit easier, because we're going to meet with you guys or with your students at the beginning of the year individually for like 10 to 15 minutes to talk about what are you doing? What's the plan? How can I help you figure out how to get through that plan, right? So having that list when you come in makes it a lot easier. Next, completing your SAT and ACT testing. So we mentioned testing at least once before the end of junior year. There will also be tests in the summer and then tests at the beginning of senior year. So if your student is somebody who isn't the best test taker, I was not. I got major test anxiety. I hated it. I took the SAT multiple times and my score did not improve, but that's just me. So, the first time was the best time for me. However, your kid may be different, right? They may take the test, do some prep work, and then do better the second time. You can take it multiple times. We don't encourage more than 3 times. After that, it kind of stagnates, right? Like, it's not going to get better. It's not going to get worse. So 3 is a good number to look at, or just don't take it at all and apply to test optional schools. But if you're applying to any like major Virginia colleges, most of them require one of the 2 tests. So as part of your research, make sure you know what testing is required and try to get it done as soon as you can, because the beginning of senior year is very busy. Very, very busy. So you don't want to add something else to your list. Finally, start thinking about your essays. Brainstorming what questions you want to answer, starting to write them even, maybe even finishing them. So it's one less thing to accomplish during senior year. Check your emails. Encourage your student to check their emails, please. We will be sending a lot of information. We try to condense it as much as we can so you don't get 15 emails, and I promise you will not get 15 emails with my name on it or anyone else's name on it in a week. We don't want to write that many emails to you, but you will get an email almost once a week, especially at the beginning of senior year. Please check your emails. We only write important stuff. We're not trying to spam you, but the stuff we write to you is really important in our minds to help you get to where you need to be. Also, like we mentioned, colleges are communicating with you through your email. So it's super important that your student checks their email regularly. Okay, so coming up for the rest of this year, we will be having a college admissions panel with college admissions counselors on March 9th. Info about that will be coming out soon. It's going to be after school and it'll be in the auditorium. We'll have admissions counselors from local Virginia colleges, and we're hoping to get somebody from an outstate school a lot of students applied to as well. They'll be here to answer whatever questions we have. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be sending out an email to all of you with the option to submit questions that you might have to the college panel to have your question asked on that night. In March, we also will be doing some mini sessions, letters of recommendation, and important activities to do in the spring and summer. So like we talked about college tours, that kind of stuff. In April, right before the dual enrollment deadline of May 5th, we'll be doing some DE support, so some dual enrollment paperwork support. We're meeting with students and they're welcome to come. They don't have to come, not required, but if they're having issues completing their dual enrollment paperwork, they can come meet with us to get help with that. It's not on here, I think I forgot to add it, but we also will be having a session for SAT and ACT sign up as well, probably late March or early April, to help students who may have difficulty signing up for those tests work on it at school with their counselor. Finally, like Ms. Benson has mentioned, in mid to late August, before school starts, we'll be having our class of 2023 college boot camp. We encourage every single rising senior to attend. We'll be going over a lot of really important stuff. And we feel like after this year's boot camp, a lot of our seniors were more prepared to get stuff done for colleges than at least I've seen in the couple of years that I've worked here. This year's senior class, in my opinion, it has gotten through the process a lot faster and a lot smoother because they attended boot camp. And then we will be meeting with every single senior, each and every one of them, individually for the first 3 weeks of the school year to talk about their plans for after college. So as someone had asked earlier, if they don't have a tight time, we will find a time to meet with them. We make it a priority to make sure we talk with all of our seniors at the beginning of the year and then again throughout the year so we know where they are in that process and how we can best support them. Okay, we did it, made it to the end. So if anyone has any questions, we're going to give time for Q&A out loud, but we also have a QR code you can scan to complete a Google form to submit questions. We also have the post-secondary handbook that you can scan, or the bit.ly link if you prefer to type it in. We encourage you to join our Remind group to get text updates from us. We don't send them very often, I promise. I'm in charge of it. I send it maybe once every month. Like I said, all of this info will live on the school counseling website, the Schoology page, and in our weekly updates.